Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're excited to have you here and really excited to introduce Brooke to you, who's going to take us through South Africa, who recently just got back and she's got some great stories to tell. So grab a glass of wine or a drink, kick back, relax. Let's talk about travel for a bit and focus on something wonderful for the next hour or so. We're here to answer your questions as we go along. So please feel free to reach out on the chat box. We'll be keeping an eye on it and then breaking periodically to answer your questions. We're here to show you the best of South Africa. So we're going to give it just about a minute, let everybody start wandering in, and if you start thinking about those questions, feel free to send them through if you have any. All right, we're just, for those now tuning in, we're just letting you know that we are very, very happy that you joined us this evening, and we are holding a bit just to let other people join in, and we will get started shortly where Brooke is going to share with you this amazing journey that she just had through South Africa. Hi, Annette. Great to hear from you, and Happy New Year to you as well. We're so glad you could join us.
Same. Hi, Annette. It's always really fun for me to see some familiar faces, since I know that there are so many people out there that I don't know personally. So it makes me really happy to see some people that I do know. Happy New Year.
All right. Annette just shared that she's excited to hear about it and that it gives her hope, and we're excited to share. I mean, it's been last year was a wild year, and I know that everybody's kind of been itching to just get on a plane and go experience something new, and it doesn't get more socially distant than the bush. So you're definitely going to get to hear about some incredible experiences that are not only going to help you feel safe, but at the same time just get that wanderlust back in our souls, right? I know I've been missing it, and Brooke over here has been just traveling the continent for us, getting everything all taken care of, so we know what to expect, and we can get excited about where we're headed next.
I know I can't get enough of it. I'm thrilled that I'm going to be able to share about South Africa. And as Liz knows, I've been to Kenya and Zambia and Uganda, and especially at a time right now where unfortunately so much of the world is still closed and unavailable. What I love is that we can escape and we can go and we can be in Africa. And it's always been such an incredible continent. And now it's a even more incredible continent for welcoming us all with open arms and making us feel, I would say, very much at home and very rejuvenated. I think we all need a little bit of decompression, and Africa definitely offers that.
Amen
so I'm
to that.
going back. I can't get enough. Definitely rather be there than here.
All right, well, I think it's been a couple of minutes, so we'll go ahead and get started. The good news is this is being recorded, so if anybody does join late, you can always catch the rewatch. So we are gonna move on along and start the journey. So as you may have met or may know or may not, I'm Liz. I am a private travel designer at Alluring Africa. It is my sole job and passion to help my clients create the perfect adventure to Africa, fulfilling all of their needs and their interests, and just making sure that they get exactly what they have been dreaming about. And it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Brooke as well, who has recently traveled all over the continent, and more specifically to South Africa. She's a fantastic partner of ours. She is a wealth of knowledge and just an incredible human being. So I think you're really going to enjoy what she has to share with us this evening. So if you are new to us or you already know who we are, Alluring Africa is a US-based tour operator, and it is our purpose to create rich and meaningful connections with the landscape, with the animals, with the people that you meet, and also with the people you're traveling with. And we do that by creating impactful journeys that are supporting the local wildlife and the people and the ecosystem, so that this incredible continent is there for generations to come. We are focused on sustainability and conservation at the forefront, and the core of who we are is making sure that sustainable tourism exists. We do that by an incredible vetting process with our partners, really making sure that they are on the same page with everything that you are going to need to feel safe and secure with your trips. And that's done through the relationships we have, similar to the one that we have with Brooke, who's joining us today. I mean, we really just have the best partners who are there to support us and make sure that we're fulfilling our clients' dreams. We are industry pioneers. Clients and our partners are always coming to us for suggestions, advice, and it is our pleasure to do so, because it's just creating a better experience for our guests on the ground. And, you know, we're here, we've got you covered, completely covered if you need it. We've got a wide range of insurance, and it's a question where we've been getting a lot of lately. But we are here to kind of walk you through that whole process and make sure that you feel safe before, during, and after the trip. Our pricing is guaranteed in US dollars, and we must be doing something right, because we've got a 99% satisfaction rate. Our clients are not just coming to us once for this trip. Sometimes we see them 2 and 3 times, and it's about relationships, like I mentioned, you know, earlier. So that's a little bit about us. All right, so why you're all here tonight, we are going to talk about all things South Africa and the trip that Brooke recently went on. So this is just a quick little location guide that shows you it's all the way down there. And on the next slide, we're going to show you kind of where exactly you went. Brooke, I'm going to let you take over from here and share with us about your amazing journey.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Thank you so much, Liz. So I will also say, just bear with me a little bit, because as we can see, there's a slight delay, but we are watching now just an overview video of South Africa, which happens to be probably my favorite country on the continent. I am very fortunate to spend time every single year in South Africa. My husband is from South Africa. I used to live in South Africa. I really do believe that the Rainbow Nation offers something for everyone. I do not care if you are a multi-gen family with a 3-year-old, if you are a couple on your honeymoon, if you've been to every other country on the continent. Truly, South Africa is a brilliant escape from the rest of the world. And as you're seeing, it really does have everything. So on my particular trip, I covered a little bit of sea, a little bit of city, a little bit of bush, and we're going to go over all of those things on the next couple of slides. And there we go. So here's our map. Very high level. I live in Boulder, Colorado. That's where I am coming to you live from right now. And I flew into Johannesburg. And then from Joburg, we flew to the Sabi Sands and stayed at a place called Sabi Earth Lodge. Then we flew out to Tswalu, Kalahari, which is in the green Kalahari, down to Cape Town, and then eventually drove doing a nice little road transfer out to a property called Grootbos, which is kind of like, I like to say, the garden route in 2 days or 3 days or 4 days or 5 days. Stay there longer. It definitely deserves it. So that is what I covered on this particular trip and what I'll take you through in a little bit more detail. So this is just a slide of my layover in Frankfurt. As we've said, look, I've now traveled to 4 countries since August, and I've had a pretty seamless experience. Every now and then there are a couple of hookups, but that's what Liz is going to be able to help you with. Flights are happening, layovers are possible, transits are possible. Just at the end of the day, don't check luggage. It's going to be a whole lot easier, and all the safari lodges do your laundry anyway. So travel light, and just you will have an easy time getting through. One thing I will mention, though, is that it's not what we are used to from 2019 and previously. A lot of the lounges are closed, or they are running on a shell staff, shell offerings. So all of us that are expecting a certain level of travel experience to get to our destination need to just rein it in slightly, because not all carriers, not all lounges, not all transits are the same as they used to be. But still, again, possible. Get an audiobook and bringing some extra food. That's at least what I do, but very comfortable, very easy. So Johannesburg, Joburg, Josie, call it anything you want to. It is absolutely one of my favorite cities. I actually like spending time in cities in Africa. I think that a lot of people think I want to avoid cities, but we travel to London and Paris and Milan and Sydney and Buenos Aires, 4 cities. Joburg is amazing. So we landed in Joburg. And we went right to our hotel. Basically, we stayed at a property called the Residence. Upon landing in Joburg, though, I will say you're going to, of course, need your COVID test. You have to download an app. And I will always say, again, work with Alluring Africa, and they're going to set up a VIP transfer for you so that you can very seamlessly cut that long line that you just saw of people getting their temperatures taken, showing all their paperwork. You're going to have to do that too, but your VIP meet and assist is going to get you to the front of the line so that you don't have to deal with any of that stuff. So have your COVID app downloaded, have your paperwork in hand, have all of the information that they send you ahead of time in hand. And it's very seamless and easy. You're gonna see, and I've seen this in every country I've traveled to, your social distancing markers, your separations. People are wearing masks. There's hand sanitizing stations. There's trolley sanitizing stations. You really can feel very safe and comfortable. I have to say, actually, I've been more impressed with airports in Africa and transfers and transportation in Africa than I have been in America. And I've flown through probably 4 or 5 cities here, and really, truly overseas, they're taking it to another level. This is our wonderful transfer driver who picked us up to bring us to the Residence. And it is just one of many kind of examples of how you're going to see people smizing, right? They're going to smile through their eyes because the smile is masked behind. The vehicles all are sanitized. You're going to see lots of hand sanitizer for yourself. Many of the vehicles or throughout the experience, they're also going to have extra masks, extra hand sanitizer for you if you happen to need it. I always felt very, very comfortable traveling, and I love being with the locals and asking them about what's going on in their world right now. So really nice and easy. From landing to luggage was about 15 minutes. And then from being brought over to our transfer vehicle to the Residence was probably another half an hour, maybe max. So the Residence in Joburg, really fun property. It's actually made up of 3 separate villas or homes. One used to be an embassy, and they've basically bought up these 3 different homes and converted them all into one boutique hotel. And we're going to play a video, I think, that I'm going to talk over as you get to see a little bit more of it. But what I happen to like about the Residence is its location. There are lots of fantastic hotels in Joburg, and they will work for all different people, all different budgets, all different bookings. This happens to be a little bit closer to some of the things that I enjoy doing when I'm in Johannesburg. So they provide transportation for you to easily get to things like the Apartheid Museum and the Constitutional Court. I'm very, very partial to the Constitutional Court. I think it's an amazing experience in South Africa, in Joburg. It's also very easy to get to an area called Maboneng. Totally look into it if you at all are interested in art or fashion or design, or you want to be a part of more of that like hip, young, vibey scene in South Africa. That's actually where William Kentridge, this is an artist from South Africa, it's where William Kentridge has his studio at a complex called Arts on Main. So I really enjoy going there, and I work with designers in Joburg as well for some of the pieces that I like to collect. The Residence has 3 pools, a tennis court, a fitness center, multiple restaurants and bars. Because it's those different buildings put together, there's lots of outdoor space. The rooms all have balconies. The service is exceptional. So it's very easy for you to spend time being with the people you're traveling with and not with anybody else. As you can see here, beautiful spa. It actually happens to be up on the rooftop. So you can be having a pedicure and you are looking out over the city of Joburg. And let me see what else. It's also a 5-minute transfer away from a place called the Wilds, which is a nature reserve or nature preserve. And when I'm trying to deal with jet lag, for me, it's a massage, it's a walk in the woods, it's a little bit of fresh air and sunshine. So they offer all of that. This was our welcome amenity. I've kind of joked now and said that masks are the new water bottles, because water bottles used to be the amenity that everybody gets. Now everybody gets a mask, some sanitizer, and still a lovely bottle of wine. The Dimmersfontein Pinotage is a really wonderful wine coming from Wellington in South Africa, which is exactly where my husband is from. And we have friends that live on the estate. So I loved that that was what they served. And then they're dining throughout. Again, you feel like you're in this little lush oasis. You're surrounded by greenery. They've got an incredible art collection. We saw in the video that there's a pianist on certain nights, fireplaces, really, really just exceptional. And you can be private. You can still feel like you are in the city and like very much a part of everything, but just relax. And as I mentioned to Liz when we were preparing for this, right now, I'm going to encourage you to agree with her on having 2 nights if you are landing in Joburg, because look, we want to travel. We want to get out. We want to go. And I think that Africa is, again, the safest and sanest place that we could be, but there might be hiccups. And so instead of you stressing because maybe you are delayed on a flight or you're rerouted on a flight, just book 2 nights. And that way, you know, you're not going to miss your flight the next day to go out on safari. And this is where you get to be. I turn my extra days in Joburg into a work day. There's great internet. I catch up on things. I literally worked by the pool. This is me at the wilds. That's where I went to kind of, like I said, get over my jet lag. And just, there's plenty to do. You can explore Joburg or not, but it's a wonderful little home to just, you know, settle in, get over things, and then get ready for that incredible experience in South Africa. And I think, yep, we're doing a little bit of Q&A.
Yes. So this is the time that if you, sorry, can't see me. This is the time that if you have any questions, I'm kind of keeping an eye on the chat as we go along. So if you have any specific questions as it relates to Johannesburg, shoot them through on the chat. And also, you know, if you, as we continue on, because there's a couple different sections that Brooke's going to highlight, if you think of questions as we're going, feel free to throw them through on the chat and we'll pause and answer them. So I don't see any coming through just yet. Brooke, I think we'll keep rolling along. And if you do think of something as we're continuing on, don't hesitate to send it through.
Okay, sounds great. All right, so to get out to the Greater Kruger or Sabi, which is where we went, we used a company called Fireblade Aviation. Now look, you do not have to fly charter. There are scheduled flights that will also get you out there. I understand though, in this day and age, a lot of people want to just travel with their bubble, right? They want to travel with their family, with their friends. And quite honestly, there's a nice little kind of break-even point where depending on how many people are in your group, it either is comparable or slightly more to do charter. And now if you're doing a charter, you know it's just you. So we used a company called Fireblade Aviation, which is based right there in Johannesburg. It is a 5-star private aviation facility. They can do customs and immigration on site. I want to stop at this picture right here. Again, I know there's a little bit of a delay every now and then, but this picture right here is of one of the private state lounges within Fireblade. And this is important because Alluring Africa is one of the founding members of the Safari Professionals of America, which is an organization of some of, you know, your top tour operators here in North America. And as Liz was talking about, right, it's all about relationships. So because they are one of the founding members of Safari Pros, they get an amazing amenity. When you work with them and you book through them, one of the things that is offered to them is access to a private state lounge on your behalf at Fireblade. So this is entirely private and it comes with a butler and it's entirely yours while you are with us. But outside of that, Fireblade does have a full spa, a gym. It has 2 day rooms. It has the spa, which is a nice little treat, showers, art from the Everard Reed Gallery, incredible food and wine. Like I said, this is a 5-star lounge and aviation facility, and it is absolutely an amazing amenity. So I happen to absolutely love it. And it's how you will always get to and from Tswalu as well. Tswalu has a partnership with Fireblade. So no matter what, if you're coming to us, you are on Fireblade. And then you can also use them for any other charters throughout Southern Africa, quite honestly, throughout the rest of Africa. And they even have jets that'll get you to and from the States if that's something that you would be interested in. But you can see all sanitary, all safety, all health, all hygiene, every single thing is being looked at. And, in the earlier photograph, we do not need to go back, Becca, but in the earlier photograph, you saw me getting my temperature taken. That is very consistent now. In any travel throughout Africa, just be prepared. You're going to have your temperature taken daily. You are going to be asked for your phone number, for your passport, because they are going to want to be able to get in touch with you if they need to, just because of, what's going on in the world right now. But it's always made me feel kind of good. I've never had my temperature taken once or twice a day. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm healthy. This is good. So we flew direct to Sabi. Sabi has a number of different properties that comprise Sabi, and we stayed specifically at Earth Lodge. And, if anybody's concerned at all of these properties are also taking inventory out as quarantine centers. Everyone is really looking at how we make the traveler feel safe and confident, and we take care of them. And so Sabi has done just that. And I believe we're going to watch a video as well that I'm going to kind of talk through. But basically, look, the Sabi Sands, you're near guaranteed to be seeing the big five. That's why people go out there. It is game dense. It is game rich. You've got an amazing opportunity of seeing a diversity of wildlife. And what's really nice about Sabi is that because it is a private concession, you can also get off of your vehicle and do other activities. So we went for walks. You can go off-roading, which I happen to say is my favorite thing ever. I mean, I've had many different safari experiences. And when I'm actually in a vehicle going through the bush and like we're ducking branches and I can hear the crunch and everything, that for me is really exciting. So I love being able to go off-roading. I love doing night drives. I think we're going to see a photo of one of the walks that we went on here as well. Earth Lodge is just incredible. I love that Liz right away spoke about conservation and sustainability. That's exactly why these properties in the itinerary pair together. Sabi, Tswalu, Grootbos, all of us, we talk and work together about conservation and sustainability. So the way that they have built things, incredible. Their offerings, beautiful. You're going to dine in different areas all over the property. They've got a gorgeous wine cellar. They've got a little like shallow pool and your feet might be in the water. Of course, they can do private dining. The spa is open. The gym is open. I mention these things because 2020 was stressful, right? I think you all felt it. I felt it. My body felt it. My mind felt it. And being able to go to Africa and decompress and have body work and read a book and just settle into the quiet peacefulness of being out in the bush was exactly what I needed. And I think that other people will feel the same way. If you go now, the sooner you go, the likelihood that you have a private vehicle, that you don't see other guests, that you have the property entirely to yourself is so much higher. So I really think if you feel comfortable, if you have the opportunity, the sooner you get to Africa, the sooner you're going to feel that decompression in a way that is entirely private and customized to you with very few other people around. What else can I say about Sabi? I mean, not just them, but all the properties. The food and the wine experience was beyond. Every property, the suites are, I mean, quite honestly, I feel like they're larger than my home. You're out in the open, fresh air, blue skies, sunshine. You can see in the vehicle, it's all open. So here's another thing that's really nice to just keep in mind is that once you get off your international flight and you're out in the bush, your mask comes off. They're going to wear their mask, and that's appropriate. I mean, we need to keep them safe too, the people that are working at all of the lodges. But you take off your mask, you do a little bit of sanitization, and it's kind of just like it was in 2019. I'm going to quote my husband for a second because I love that he said this. Going on safari right now, the lodge experience is 98% of what it was. I say that because, you've got to sanitize a little bit more. But the safari experience is 200% of what it was. You're not going to see other vehicles. You're not going to see other people. The opportunity for upgrades, for private vehicles, for private guiding, all of those things, so much more possible right now. And also, we're going into winter in North America. I mean, again, I'm not really interested in looking at snow for the next couple of months. But I would be very interested in looking at a savanna and a bushveld.
Same.
And actually, as we move to the next photo, I know, Liz, that Sabi, I think, did you tell me that this was one of your first ever safari experiences? So it is incredibly near and dear to your heart.
It is, yeah, it is the first place I ever went on safari. I had been with the company a mere 6 months. It was my first trip to Africa, and I went to Sabi, and I cried on my way back to the airport when I was leaving it. I kept telling the guide, I'm like, I think I left my passport in the room. Can we just go back real quick? I don't mind if I miss the flight. I mean, hearing you talk about it, you're perfectly capturing the emotion behind it. And I think that it's not just the accommodation and the animals and the food and the wine, it's the people and the service, and just the fact that everything that Sabi does is intentional, and but you don't realize how intentional it is. It's a pretty spectacular place. I love it.
Yeah, I fully agree.
One of my clients just chimed in and said that she cried when she left too. It's that kind of place.
So, I mean, not to put a damper on it, but like I actually ended up getting stuck in South Africa for a couple of extra days. And I remember talking to people about that and they were like, oh my God, how lucky are you? And I was like, yeah, right. Like that's a good way of looking at it. And to your point, I think a lot of people are just saying like, I'm okay being stuck here. I'd rather be here.
Agreed.
This is, I think, also really important. So I like that lodges are putting their protocols front and center. I don't need it to be hidden. I don't need to not see it. We got on our vehicle, we went on our safari, we came back, and the second we got off our vehicle, they came out to start doing all of the sanitization. And I think that that is important for guests to see. It was important for me to see, which is why I took this photo. I was very impressed with that. So don't be surprised if you see things like that in the forefront. That's the important thing. Properties are open because they're passing all of the protocols that the government have put in place. Now, look, every property is going to do it different, right? You've got your standard protocols that you have to abide by, but they might go about it in a different way. I happen to really like seeing it because that means, okay, I feel safe. I trust it. I know I'm fine. So I was just really impressed when I saw this. And then I think if I remember the next slide, oh, well, this is on the walk. So I'm a culture oriented person. I studied anthropology. I love archaeology. And when I found out that Sabi has Bushman paintings, I was just head over heels. I was like, I've got to go and see them. I had no idea that they were there. I'm very thrilled. I've been to Tswalu before. They have San Bushman etchings in the rocks. So this is like a counterpart. And if you're interested in things like that, it's really interesting to see the paintings and the etchings. So we went for a walk and we got to go and see them. They will remind you not to touch them, but you get very, very close. So same thing, you can, I think of wanting to be outside in big open spaces. Quite honestly, I want to be pampered. I don't know all of who is joining us today, so I don't know your particular situations, but you know what 2020 was for me? I did a lot more laundry. I did a lot more cooking. I did a lot more cleaning. I was really happy to go someplace where someone else was taking care of me instead of my taking care of my family. And I love taking care of my family. But for those of you that need a break, going to a property like this and being able to have that incredible staff that Liz was talking about, taking care of you, pampering you, making sure you can relax, read that book. And also you can work from school, from just be at any of these properties. They have internet, they've got office spaces. So morning safari, afternoon walk, after lunch at the spa, and then, a little bit of computer work if you have to. I just really feel that you can do pretty much anything that you want in Africa that you would need to do here. But I don't have elephants walking by my house where I am. I don't have the big five that I get to sit in awe of. I don't have guides that are encyclopedic and can just teach me things that I've never known before. The sunsets are brilliant. The stars are incredible. There is something about being in the African bush that just makes you feel alive in a very different way. Now, I staged this photo. They're not actually serving bleach as your sundowner, don't worry. But they really did take out the bleach and they sanitized everything before they set it up. And then they had the hand sanitizer for us. So I found that just to be very cute. And I wanted to showcase the fact that, again, your safari is not limited. It's not lacking. You're not going to miss out on anything, but they're doing what they need to do to ensure everybody stays well. Similarly here in the spa. So the reason I focus on this so much as well is that when I was in Uganda, they at the time were not allowing spa to take place. So I love the fact that in South Africa, spas are open, fitness centers are open, you can have an amazing treatment. And I mean, the people are just So incredible. The therapeutic aspect of of spa when you're on safari is amazing because so much of the product is from the local environment, from the bush, Kalahari salt or, herbs that they're collecting. So there's definitely something very interesting about having a spa treatment when you're in Africa as well.
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button. That seems to be the theme of 2020. I guess we're carrying into 2021.
I told Liz.
So I did get a question.
X on her.
We did get a question come through, really great one. So the question was, how do you think this itinerary will fare if traveling with children ages 10 to 15? And I'll talk on that. And Brooke, if you want to contribute or throw anything in, but as you can see by the enthusiastic thumbs up, it's a fantastic itinerary for taking kids. And honestly, I think that 10 to 15 age range is really the ideal age range. I personally have an 11-year-old, and I know with him that this type of trip will really just register and sink in, and he'll remember it. And it will have just as much of an impact on the kids as it does the adults. And what's also really spectacular is that all of these properties that are being highlighted really make it their goal to make sure that the kids are having just as good of a time as the adults. Sabi specifically does have their properties, as Brooke mentioned, and one is specifically geared more towards families, where you could even bring the littles along. I mean, it's got a fenced-in playground where they can run around and play, but they're also learning things like, why is a hyena's poop white, and how are they going to be the next ranger or tracker? And so the parents can go enjoy a spa treatment with a glass of wine while the kids are out there, becoming junior rangers, or the parents can even participate. So Africa is really geared for all people, like Brooke had said at the very beginning, and I think it's a fantastic place to bring kids. There's that you really, people, I've heard many people say you kind of disconnect to reconnect. So it's not as much about the iPads and the FaceTimes and the videos and the Netflix. Kids really, have time to put their screens down and get to experience the beauty and the nature around them with some fantastic guides.
So I'll add nuance.
Yeah.
Liz is spot on. This particular itinerary is perfect for families with children. However, keep in mind the properties that we're talking about specifically might shift and change. So Earth Lodge does have a minimum age requirement, but again, their sister property that Liz was speaking about, they accept children of all ages and have one of the most remarkable children's programs that I've seen. I actually have photos of like the kids' handprints on the walls because every single child that goes to be a part of this program gets to like put their handprint on the wall and sign their name and their date and everything. Similarly, we don't have to move slides now, but when we get to Ellerman House, as a for instance, Ellerman House has 2 villas and then the actual hotel. Children are not allowed in the hotel, but they are allowed in the villas. So there's going to be a nuance, and I might talk about at Grootbos, we stayed at Forest Lodge, which is more appropriate for adults, but they also have 2 villas, and then they have garden, which is appropriate for children. So this entire itinerary, perfect for families. You might just end up having it tweaked a little bit because of having the children along.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely.
But look, I'm with Liz. Like, I'm desperate to take my godchildren to Africa. I want to see safari through a child's eyes. I see it through I see it through like my eyes. I like taking people who are first timers because that brings it alive in a different way. I think bringing children and traveling with children in Africa is something that will make us all young at heart again. And the amount of times that I hear parents or grandparents even saying, well, I want to make a casting of that print as well, or I want to learn how to make a fire and shoot a bow and arrow. We all become children again in a really wonderful way when we are there. So please, please, please bring your families, bring your children. It will change their lives. And I can also go off in 1,000 different directions right now and say, it's also a very humbling experience. And I think it's really good for us to see the way that the rest of the world operates outside of the US. So it's definitely an education for people too.
Yeah, absolutely. One more quick question that came through from Leslie asked if there's tents to stay in. So the accommodations can vary kind of all over Africa and very similar to, what's good for kids versus what's good for adults in terms of property and accommodation. A lot of times you'll find that the properties are either going to be chalet type villa sort of experiences. So like little homes almost basically, like Brooke had said earlier, it's almost as big as her apartment. I mean, rooms are not just rooms like a hotel room, plenty of space. And then there's also properties that might be your typical, tented canvas. But that doesn't mean that you're pitching a tent. It means that you've got a proper bed and a flushing toilet and a shower en suite. It's just the walls that surround you might be made out of, tent canvas. So there's a variety of different types of accommodation. It all just depends on what your preference is and what your comfort level is. And that's something that, we'll talk about as you're thinking about putting a trip together.
And then actually that's a nice segue into Tswalu, because the other thing is that you do have some properties that are more structured, but they have sleep out experiences. So keep in mind that that's an option as well, where you might be staying in a property like a Tswalu, but then one night is a sleep out. So there's lots of different ways of putting together the experience and, having the night that you're looking to get. Now, Tswalu is incredibly near and dear to my heart. I'm sure plenty of people have heard this before, but it's actually where my husband proposed to me. So even before I was a partner in the Africa industry, Tswalu is definitely buried into my history. And I say that too because it's great for romance, but it's also really perfect for families. So keep in mind, we haven't touched upon this, but so Tswalu is certifiably malaria free. And then you've got other areas that are considered lower non-malarial. So it's also really good for families or people that are at all, possibly concerned about that. So this is me. You can't see it, but my t-shirt says, "Ask me about pangolin, they're endangered." And I love wearing that when I go to Tswalu, because Tswalu is known for having some exceptional pangolin experiences because of a researcher that we have on property. So we were flying out now from Sabi to Tswalu. Tswalu is a private game reserve. It is actually the largest privately owned game reserve in South Africa at about 300,000 acres of land, with 1 5-bedroom villa and then 9 suites. So we basically have about 10 vehicles on property. So you're looking at about 30,000 acres per vehicle, which means your social distancing is very much going to happen. Tswalu is similar to Sabi though, in that for us, yes, we're going to offer you a 5-star luxury experience. The core of what we do and what we believe is conservation, sustainability, community. And again, that's the same. That's why we pair. That's why we've put together this itinerary. And I should also mention, Sabi can do COVID testing on site, and so can Tswalu. And then you can easily get them in South Africa, in Cape Town as well. So, if you're going back to, say, Canada, or a place where you need to have a COVID test done, you can get that done at any of these properties. So what I always like to talk about here is, people hear Kalahari and they think desert. We're not a desert. Tswalu is actually an arid savanna. We are very rich in game, but vastly different game than what you're going to see at Sabi. And that's why you pair us together. There you've got the big 5 and then some others. Here you've got things like the oryx, which is one of the most beautiful antelope. For me, it's my favorite. And also the roan and the sable, really interesting species. Along with, we saw in photos earlier, aardvark, aardwolf, pangolin, some very rare, elusive, and hard to come across species. And so that's why you combine. The ecosystems are totally different. Your animal viewing is totally different. And I mean, what I say to people that is always remarkable is, anywhere you stand on Tswalu and you do a full turnaround to the horizon, you're still seeing Tswalu's land. There's no air pollution, light pollution, noise pollution. You're not going to see other guests. And there's so many activities to do. We're famous for our meerkats too. So great meerkat experience. What you're seeing right now are our researchers. The Tswalu Foundation supports a number of different researchers that are actively doing work, so you can meet with them. You can go and see our community and meet with our teachers at the school. We have a clinic on site. We saw it earlier as well. There's a helicopter. We have horse rides. You can do the things that I said I love at Sabi. Go for walks, go for game drives at night and off-roading. And last year, Tswalu had a complete renovation. So it's a completely new property right now. And during 2020, when we did not have guests, we also pushed that forward, and we did a couple of other really new and interesting things as well. And I know that we've got photos of those things, and so I'll talk about them. It is a photographer's dream. It is one of the most peaceful places that I've ever come across. And really, I think something that should be attempted to be worked out into any itinerary, because it pairs perfectly with everything else in South Africa. This is a photo of the villa. So Tarkuni is a 5-bedroom exclusive use property. It's great for multi-generational travel. It's great for friends getting away together. But what's really nice about it is that it's not priced for 10 people. It's priced at a lower number of people and then per person. So again, for people that want that little bubble of travel, this is a beautiful experience. Pool, chaise lounges, a yoga pavilion, and also had a lot of work done during 2020. So I'm even looking to get some new photos now because they only just finished it at the beginning of December. I mean, to the point that I didn't even see it while I was there. I stayed here at Motsi. Motsi is the one that was redone last year. Super spacious, air-conditioned fireplaces, art on the walls. The artist in residence program at Tswalu is alive and well, and there are some really interesting people that are coming and doing great work on property. All en suite. Every single one of the suites also has star beds outside, so you could do a little sleep out right there if you wanted to. One is completely accessible as well. At some point, if anybody wants to talk about accessible travel to Africa, I really believe that everyone, no matter what, should be going to Africa, and certain properties really go the distance to make sure that that's possible. This is exciting for me. So you can barely see it there, but the bottle says Jan, Jan. And Jan Hendrik is South Africa's first Michelin-starred chef that we've entered into a partnership with. And so he's at the head of our culinary experience. He works in collaboration with our executive chef, Marnus, and we are right now in the process of building a restaurant on site for him. His Michelin restaurant called Jan is in Nice, and Klein Jan, Klein means little or small in Afrikaans, will be at Tswalu, and we'll be opening sometime February, March. So again, another reason to book a trip March, April, May, and get yourself on out to South Africa, because this is going to be, in my opinion, probably one of the most sought after dining experiences in the world when it is all done and announced, and it's looking amazing. And then this is me standing at what's called Naledi, which means stars. And this is our new sleep out experience. And so we have 2 sleep out experiences. One is called the Mallory, and then here's Naledi. Each are in totally different parts of the reserve, and so completely private. Families can do them as well. Great for couples, but extra beds for kids. This is totally open air. I mean, it's raw. It's awesome. I love it. And you're just sleeping out under the stars. So this is something that you're going to have a conversation with your guide about while you're there. But the Mallory, you can book ahead of time, and that's a tented experience. So for the person who asked that question about tents, definitely book the Mallory. We've got a beautiful equestrian program here at Tswalu, as do they at Grootbos as well. So if you are an equestrian and you want to ride, 2 fantastic properties for you. Tswalu, you are going to have the opportunity of going up in a helicopter, going for walks, seeing those San Bushman etchings, the community visits, gorgeous spa, beautiful pool, fitness center. Oh, we have a brand new photographic vehicle as well. If you are a photographer, we have a photo studio and we have a photographic vehicle. So again, there's just lots to do. This is dune dining. We have boma dining. We've got in-room dining. So again, it's similar to all of the other properties in this itinerary. No day, no moment is going to be the same, and everything is going to be custom made and tailored to you and whomever it is that you're traveling with. Whatever it is that you want for your time in Africa, these properties deliver. Everybody, of course, like I said, loves our meerkats. We have habituated meerkats, so you can get very close to them. You can get down on the ground. You can photograph them up close, and then kind of like go for a walk with them in the morning as they're starting to sun themselves and move along and go and forage and all of that for what it is that they eat, termites and scorpions and all sorts of fun little insects out there. This is just me at the spa. I'm basically going to talk about spa at every property because, again, I think we all need to decompress a little bit. And I think that Africa offers a really good way for us to get a little pampering. And I think we all need a little bit of pampering right now. And also Tswalu is one of those properties that created their own line of spa amenities from elements of the Kalahari. The healthcare facility on site, which again is important. It's For me, it's a little bit of a deciding factor, right? I mean, you can have your COVID test here at Tswalu, or you can at Sabi, as I mentioned. And if those are the last spots before you're outbound and you have to have one for the flight that you're on or for the country you're going back to, then you can arrive at either of these properties and have your test done. Go and enjoy your safari, go and enjoy your next 2 days, and then you get your results back as you're flying for your outbound. So properties are making it very easy for you, or at least trying to.
All right. So I haven't had any questions pop through yet. We did have one that kind of came through as we were transitioning in about the difference between Sabi Sands and Sabi. And so I just clarified that Sabi is the collection of properties located in the Sabi Sands, which is a collection of private conservancies. Can be a little bit complicated, but conservancies are definitely the place to be because of the variety that you can have with the off-roading and the night drives. And like Brooke said, getting, driving off the path is really exciting. So don't have any other questions that have come through just yet. So we'll go ahead and roll on, but feel free to send them through if you have any.
Maybe that's because I'm long-winded and I try and cover a lot of details.
I don't know about long-winded, but it's helpful. You're giving so much information. Nobody has to have any questions, which is great.
All right, so we flew down to Cape Town, and also just to give you an idea of distance, we flew on a PC-12, and that's a Pilatus. From Johannesburg to Cape Town was an hour and a half, and from Joburg to Tswalu was an hour and a half, and from Tswalu to Cape Town is 2 hours. So, I mean, you're covering distance here in this flight. And we landed in Cape Town, the mother city, in the mother country, in the mother continent. And we landed at another private facility that Fireblade uses. And we got picked up in our beautiful white BMWs. I was a little sad because Ellerman House just recently finished a brand new partnership with BMW and one of my other favorite South African artists, Nick Bladen. And I think that it was being used for another guest. So we didn't get to ride in that one, but we did get to see it. So we got picked up in these and transferred on out to Ellerman House. Ellerman House is another property that I just really love because it's a little bit away from the city center and from the waterfront, but still very accessible. And I just happen to like staying away from the crowd, and Ellerman House is definitely a property that delivers on that. I also think it's amazing to be able to have this amount of space, as you're seeing right away. The pool, the outdoor area, they've done everything necessary for social distancing. Dining is set up in different areas. The chaise lounges are set up in different ways. And you get to sleep to the sound of the ocean and just wake up and look out at this expansive, view. It's very, very soothing and calming to be able to hear the ocean. Now, I will constantly talk about art because I love art. And Ellerman House has one of the most outstanding art collections within South Africa. So much that they have an art curator. They do art tours as well. So what you're seeing in this video is not just pictures on a wall. It is some of the most remarkable art that you can come across in South Africa. The food and the wine is also just incredible. They've got an amazing chef leading their culinary experience. They have an entire wine studio where you can do tastings, tours. That same artist, Nick Bladen, has a brilliant piece in the wine studio. So private dining, very easy. Special events, very easy to handle and to accomplish while you're there. And I know that I'm kind of jumping to some of the photos, but even in this particular time, they themselves worked on a signature namesake gin and a signature wine. So they're even producing their own spirits and wines, which I think is very impressive. 2 separate villas. So again, now you can stay in the main Ellerman House property, or you can have one of the 2 villas. Let me see, again, just they're doing everything right from your COVID protocol standpoint. And I know that we'll talk about that in some of the images that we've got coming up next, but really easy for you to then have both your beach and your city and just a lot of decompression while you're there with them. They also, again, fit really well with the other properties that we're talking about because of their community outreach and what it is that they are doing for their local community. But now I see this photo that's come up. So I will say something. The QR code to me has become like the ubiquitous way of doing a check-in in Africa right now. You are going to use a QR code to do your health form, to see your menus, to do your spa appointments. It doesn't matter. I was using QR codes across the board. Basically, everyone is trying to get away from anything that is high touch. I happen to prefer this over anything that's paper anyway, because single use is not my thing. So things that have to get remade every day, like menus and stuff, I don't really need that. I like the conservation element of how can we use as little as possible. Gorgeous suites, all with balconies. Again, another QR code, another mask, more hand sanitizer, lovely welcome amenities. They work with local chocolatiers, they work with local designers. They just really are embracing the lifestyle in Cape Town and bringing that to you. I happen to have celiac, and I was traveling with someone who is a vegan. And I mention those things because I also want people to know that when they're traveling, especially to South Africa and Cape Town, which happens to be one of the culinary hubs of the world these days. I mean, there's so many restaurants to go and explore there. Every property that is in this itinerary and every restaurant, they can all cater to anything that you need or want. And this I happen to love. It's their private little pantry, and you can just walk in at any point in time and take a couple of snacks here and there. It does not take a lot to properly label things. And so I think this was like my only cupcake on the trip, because I was like, I can't pass that up. It's an absolutely stunning property. I didn't leave. Now, Cape Town, I used to live in Cape Town. You've got gorgeous art museums, restaurants, shops, neighborhoods, neighborhood markets. You've got some absolutely interesting history to go and explore. You've got fascinating modern day, culture to explore. But I don't often get the chance to just sit at Ellerman House and relax and enjoy. This that you're looking at right now is in their contemporary art studio. And this is a collection of pieces by William Kentridge, who's the artist behind me, probably South Africa's most famous artist. And for those of you in the States, I mean, he's had showings at MoMA, he does operas at the Met. And this is just one of many of the most incredible pieces that they have curated and collected. I think they have over 1,000 artworks and about 800 on display at any point in time. What's also great about that is here we are having an art tour with the art curator. There are so many ways to appreciate the vibrant culture of Cape Town, even by going slow. Even if you don't want to go to all of those museums or all of those galleries and you just want to relax at the hotel for a day, you can still go on an art tour and meet with the curator. They have a brilliant book that they've produced on all of their art as well. And it really tells the story of the history of South Africa from its inception, from early days, things that go back to the Bushmen. It is a history lesson unto itself.
All right, so we have a couple of questions that came through.
Okay.
The first one is, how will travel change as we have COVID vaccines? So that is a great question that we don't necessarily know the answer to just yet, because it seems that things are changing on the daily. But what I do know is that we are constantly keeping track of it, and we are aware of what's happening, and our relationships run deep. So we're getting information quickly and as things are changing and updating. It is, I'd like to predict that maybe it's going to be something as simple as you need a yellow fever vaccination to get into Uganda. So maybe now you travel with this new card. You see people who've been getting their vaccinations, but we have no idea what the rollout's going to be and when everybody's going to have it. So I think for the foreseeable future, we're going to see, masks on planes and these new protocols in place. But we are, like I said, we're aware and we're on top of it, and we will keep you posted as things evolve, the various airlines, that kind of thing.
Can I say something about that too, Liz? This just came to me, and this is always a little bit of a nervous moment for me, right? So I'm going to say, don't do as I say or as I do. I'm just going to put this out there, and then you all make up your own decisions. But Liz and I were talking about this before we started, and I completely understand and honor people not wanting to travel until they have a vaccine, especially because there are some people where that is absolutely crucial to them. I'm 39. I do not have pre-existing conditions outside of celiac, which that's not a thing. And I, as I've said, have traveled to 4 African countries. I also went to Alaska and to Massachusetts from Colorado, starting in August of last year. Personal responsibility and choosing the right partners to work with that are like Alluring Africa, that are going to put you in the right properties, like the ones that we're speaking about. That to me makes me feel very confident to travel. What makes me nervous is people waiting, people that don't need to have a vaccine because they're like me, they're young and they can make sure that they're doing everything right, waiting to travel until the vaccine really starts to spread. Because I've started already hearing things like Qantas as an airline is going to start flying from Australia to South Africa, but you're not allowed on that plane until you have a vaccine. Well, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get a vaccine because I'm not someone who needs to have it. So if I look at the rollout in the US, I might not even have access to it until July or August. Well, does that mean that a country that says you have to have a vaccine to travel in June is now off of the table for me? That's very likely. So if you can travel, you feel comfortable traveling, and you don't feel the need to wait for it, I unfortunately think there's going to be a strange time period where certain elements like planes or countries say you have to have it and you can't get it. And Liz was just telling me, and I did not know this, that there are certain, or the vaccines have basically said that they're not appropriate for young children. So again, if you can, if you feel comfortable, if it works for you, I'm not pushing anything, but if you want to travel, traveling sooner than later might actually be a good decision, because there's going to be a time period where maybe you want to and you can't. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid there's going to be a time period that I want to travel and I'm not going to be able to just because I can't get my hands on a vaccine. So,
and we've had clients, beyond Brooke traveling, I personally have had clients who have traveled and they have shared with me that they felt safer, on their trip than they did going to Publix to pick up their groceries, just because that these places are really doing it right and they're doing it the best that they can to ensure your safety. So it'll be a personal preference thing. But, if we could have anticipated that travel was going to be in the position it is right now, when all of this started, gosh, who knows? So just stay tuned, stay with us. And of course, we're here to help you with any questions that you have and really help you guide you in what's the best decision for you, and what's the best place for you to be, based on what's going on in your world. So a couple more questions. But Brooke, how long was your trip?
Okay, so the trip that I'm covering now with you was 2, 4, 6, 8 was 8 days, because I only spent 2 days in each of these. And you have to understand, though, I'm not necessarily going on a vacation or a holiday.
Industry trip. It's a little different.
Yeah, exactly. So I would generally recommend now, because of what's happening with aviation, I would recommend 2 nights in Joburg, 3 to 4 nights Sabi. And actually, interesting plug there. I know that some of these properties are offering some very nice specials for all of you who joined us today and who book a trip within about 6 months of this particular webinar. And many of those are stay longer packages as well. So I would absolutely say the 4 nights at Sabi, 5 nights at Tswalu, Cape Town. I mean, God, I used to live there. You could spend a whole year there and you still won't even cover it. But most people are going to spend maybe about 4 nights in Cape Town, depending on if they're going out and doing a day trip or actually spending time in wine country. And then I would love to see people spending about 3 nights out at Grootbos. If all you have is 2, that's okay, but you're definitely going to miss out on some things. Most people are going to South Africa for about a 2-week trip. If you have longer, especially these days, I've realized so many different things in traveling right now. If you are making a new booking, spend as long as you can there. Again, you can work from there. There's internet. I understand we've got, kids' schedules to think about and everything. I mean, again, every individual situation is different, but the US dollar rand conversion is such that if you can stay longer and you can stay longer in fewer places, please do it. I am not a box ticker. I do not need to go on safari and see the big 5 in an hour. I don't need to be in Cape Town for 3 days and see everything that should take you 3 months to see. I want quality experiences, and I also want downtime. It's not just safari, it's a vacation. Like, we're traveling all that way to reconnect, to settle in. I would love to see people stay as long as they possibly can, especially also at the end of your trip. I think people always forget this. Don't just finish your trip and go. I always like to book an extra day, no matter what I'm doing, because that's the day that I write, that I process, that I just think, that I internalize the entire experience that I just had. The second I get on a plane and I come home, I'm at work, I'm wifing, I'm, daughtering, I'm like doing all of the things that we all do in life all the time. I don't have children, other people are mothering or parenting. Stay as long as you possibly can. And these properties all merit longer stays as well.
Agreed. Yep.
And I actually did stay on. So I was in South Africa for about 3.5 weeks in total. I did things beyond this because, again, I'll say I have family and friends there. So I was in South Africa for about 3.5 weeks in total. I'm just not talking about, my personal time.
And it's true. Like, you stay as long as you possibly can, but at a minimum, at an absolute minimum, you don't want to spend less than 3 nights at a safari destination. That's the minimum number of nights in each of those locations to really tuck in an experience. So if you're looking at something like this, you want to have at least 3 nights at Tswalu and 3 nights at Sabi, and gosh, 4 nights Cape Town. So hopefully that helps you kind of get an idea of what makes, how long to go. It's a long way to go to just turn around and leave, a week later. So.
Well, and these are beautiful, stunning properties. I mean, the amount of times that I've been at a property and I've never actually gotten to enjoy my room or my suite. I mean, you're staying at these properties because they are the best of the best. I want to sit out on my balcony and read a book and look at the ocean. I don't get to do that here in Colorado. That's specifically why I didn't do anything for my 2 nights in Cape Town. I did not leave Ellerman House. I was like, I'm not going anywhere because this is an opportunity I don't often get. And I think that we forget sometimes that we want to enjoy the property as much as the destination.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
So another question, this is twofold from 2 different people, but I think that, we can kind of combine it. Wine tours in and around Cape Town. So going to the wine country, any tips on some favorites that you have and about how far away, maybe we can limit it to like 3. And Carrie, I will, Brooke, I got Brooke on speed dial. So maybe I'll connect the 2 of you. Carrie is one of my clients who just booked a Namibia trip, and she's going to hang in Ellerman actually for a couple nights after. So we can connect the 2 of you, but if you want to give us maybe 2 or 3 of like your favorites, and how far it's going to take you to get to those places.
Okay. So you've got 3 separate wine regions. Right now, I'm going to talk about 2 because the third is actually closer to Grootbos. And that's exactly why I think you should spend longer at Grootbos as well. So from Cape Town, you've got 2 prominent wine regions. One is the Constantia wine region, which is on the peninsula. And from Ellerman, you can literally cut across the peninsula. You don't have to go around it to get to Constantia. And that's where you have Groot Constantia, Steenberg, and I went to Steenberg and I did a tasting there as well, and numerous others. These were the first wine properties in South Africa. So you've got your old Cape Dutch architecture. You've got properties that are owned by very prominent people. Steenberg has an amazing art collection as well. Great restaurants out in that area. Boa Constantia is out there as well. And I think, please, Liz, correct me if I'm wrong, Boa Constantia is now where Chef's Warehouse has an outpost. So you've got wine and really good food as well. So you can very easily do some wine tasting at some of the oldest, most prominent, most well-respected, award-winning wineries on the peninsula, very close to Ellerman House. And you could do that in an afternoon if that's all that you had time for. Otherwise, from Cape Town, you're going about an hour-ish, depending on 1, traffic, and 2, your location, to what is considered the wine region of South Africa. As I've mentioned, my husband's from Wellington. That's where Dimmersfontein is. People happen to love Dimmersfontein because it is kind of like a chocolate-infused pinotage. Very honestly, it is not my favorite. However, we have friends that live on the estate, so I am there every single year, but it's just not my favorite. In terms then of what is my favorite, you've got both Stellenbosch and Franschhoek. Okay.
Brooke
I know
does
this is
wine.
like
Wine is like
Chip
one of her
Brooke, you're gonna
favorite
run out of time.
subjects.
I on this trip actually went out to Lanzerac and I was overwhelmed. I had never been there before. I loved every single wine of theirs that I tasted. I did not know they were the first estate that bottled Pinotage, and they've won a slew of awards. They are absolutely fantastic for wine tasting. If I were to go upstairs right now and I look at what we have a vertical collection of, Miralist is another amazing one, and it is a beautiful estate to go and visit too. Takara is also one of my favorites. I'm biased. I used to know the head winemaker. His name is Miles Mossop, and he now produces under his own name. But Takara is a beautiful estate for wine tasting, and also they have like olive oil tastings and other things like that as well. If you're a golfer, go out to Ernie Els, because that's just kind of fun. I'm not a golfer, but I've got a photo of myself like drinking wine in front of all of his trophies. You told me 3, so
That's
I'm
good.
gonna
Yeah,
stop.
that's fantastic. And like I said, Carrie, or anyone that's listening in on this, if we need to tap into Brooke's wine expertise, I'm sure she'd be willing to help us out.
I could sadly sit here and talk to you for an hour just on wine. Maybe that's a follow-up webinar, Liz. We have Johan come and join me.
That might be a good idea, right? That takes happy hour to a whole new level.
But then I am going to talk about the Hemelen-Arda when we talk about Grootbos.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. So then we drove out to Grootbos. And this is about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Again, it depends on the route that you take and traffic. You are most normally going to drive out there. You can also take a helicopter out there, and then it's going to be a beautiful little site. My personal tip for you, but everybody believes something different. So it's also going to depend on how the itinerary comes together that Liz plans for you. What I prefer is driving out over, like through the wine country I just spoke about, over the passes down into Grootbos, and coming back on the whale route where you see the ocean and you can stop at Betty's Bay to see penguins. I prefer Betty's Bay to see penguins than Boulders. In this new world, right? It's a lot less crowded, and just for me, it's a much nicer experience. Grootbos is so near and dear to my heart also. I just don't know too many properties that are like this. It is, gosh, I'm like almost speechless. So Grootbos is a reserve that is protecting nature at one of the highest levels. Instead of going to Kirstenbosch, still go if you want to, it's cool. This is where you're going to have access to some of the most interesting fynbos, some of the most interesting flora. The largest milkwood forest on earth is on their property. So you've got beach and ocean, and you've got this beautiful wild experience of, again, the fynbos, which is famous in South Africa. This is what all the gins are being made from, scientific discoveries are being made from. It's privately owned. It has 2 villas. It has a property that is, as I mentioned, forest, where we stayed, much more appropriate for adults. And then garden is great for children, a wealth of activities, and some of the most impeccable conservation programming that you can imagine. There is an organization called the Long Run. Tswalu and Grootbos are both a part of that. And Grootbos is actually, I believe, a global ecosphere. You can look this up. This can be follow-up, but it specifically speaks to people that are at the forefront of conservation and sustainability. And they also do a tremendous amount for their community, as does every other property in this itinerary. I didn't even mention the music, Music for Meals program that Ellerman was doing, but Grootbos did the exact same thing. They had an amazing feeding scheme for their community during 2020. They do a lot with sports and athletics and education. We're seeing now the villas. So you've got 2 villas, as I mentioned, but then there's also the Grootbos Foundation, the researchers that are on property. They have a whole kind of schooling system set up where the youth can come and actually learn about conservation and sustainability as well. They've got some of the most incredible food and wine. We're going to talk about wine in a second. So actually, this is a bottle of wine. It's a beautiful amenity, but for me, I say the amenity is the view, because from my suite, I am looking out toward the beach and the ocean, the beach that we walked along and the ocean that we swam in, that was completely private without anybody else around. You can ride horses on the beach or through the fynbos. You can go for walks on the beach or through the fynbos. We had sundowners on the beach also out in the bush in the Fan Boss. These were our footsteps. There was nobody on this beach before we got there. And then this was the coolest sundowner experience as well. We were told to have they call them kazis, our costumes. We went into the ocean, the owner popped the champagne, and we're like in the ocean as he's pouring the champagne, and we're swimming in the water and drinking. This is a little fairy tale bush experience where you walk into the milkwood forest. It's all lit up, and we had cocktails and canapes here, and we met with the sommelier. And so this is where we started to really understand why this particular property is so great also for your food and your wine. So the Cape Winemakers Guild is one that the owner goes to, and he buys from the auction and stocks the cellar with wines that you almost cannot even get yourself if you wanted to. The food, all of this, absolutely exceptional. But from here, you can also now explore something called the Hemel-Arda, which is heaven and earth. And that's, for me, the most up and coming wine region of South Africa. They excel in Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And then further east of where the property is are other wineries that they work with for tours. What I like about it is that there are fewer people. You've got better access to the winemakers. You're going to be treated to like sampling and tasting things that you might not otherwise have on offer. It's just a more like authentic, low-key, personalized wine experience. And I just think it's amazing. And they also work to produce their own wines here as well. So they've got a couple that are labeled under Grootbos. 2 villas side by side. One's a 4-bedroom, one's a 6-bedroom. They also have incredible art here. Grootbos has a wonderful artist in residence program, as does Tswalu. But this really is your botanical safari. You're going to be on a safari vehicle, you're going to be driving around, and you're going to be learning all about the fynbos and the protea. The protea is the South African flower, and near and dear to my heart. It was actually, it's my engagement ring. It's also the bouquet that I carried going down the aisle. Some of the most stunning, beautiful flowers that I have ever come across, and you're going to see them everywhere, and you're going to get to learn about them. And I'm hoping that the next picture is of, oh no, okay, so I'm going to talk about flora again in a second. So in terms of activities, we're now boating. We're taking a boat up the Klein River. We're birding. We counted about 50 birds on our 2-hour-long excursion. I leave that in the hands of my travel companions because I'm not a birder. But also, again, it's just that you've got lots of really great activities. There are so many things to do here. Over at Garden, they have a whole children's center as well, kind of like a learning and engagement center for them. So that's why I want people to stay longer in all of these properties, because I promise you, if you cut it too short, you'll leave going, I wish I had had the opportunity to do these things. This is really amazing to me, what we're looking at right here. So Chris Lochner is the artist in residence on property. And last year, talk about making the most out of lockdown, they actually discovered a plant completely new to science. That's awesome. I think that's absolutely incredible. So what they're doing here is Chris is a scientific illustrator, and because there is so much biodiversity on Grootbos's conservancy, they've brought him in and other local and international artists specifically to create what is called, my pronunciation is terrible, a florilegium. A florilegium is a compendium of scientifically illustrated flora. And they have the originals put aside. You can buy prints, framed or otherwise, and they're going to make a book for their anniversary next year, because again, there is no other property that you can go to in South Africa where you can see as much diversity and learn as much about the fynbos and the flora. But also you can meet with the researchers. They've got camera traps set up. They're studying the leopards on property. They're working with their community as well to ensure that land remains sustainable and under conservation. Let me see, they are doing some really interesting insect research. And one of the new things that they're going to launch soon is a participation for guests to go out and to work with the researchers on property that are studying all the insects and photographing them as well. So very, very, very deeply focused on conservation and including guests in all of those different studies and programs, along with You know, I could go on with all of the things that they do for their local community. Oh, and I'll just quickly mention also, this is the property to go to if you are at all interested in shark cage diving. I've never done that before, but like if you want to get in the water with sharks, or if you want to see the whales when they're coming through, basically just if you do want to combine your safari with your city, with your sea, Grootbos, it's just, I mean, I love it. I love it 1,000 times over.
All right. So we haven't had any specific, I pronounce it the wrong way, so I'm not even going to attempt to.
No, I mean, you know, I try to mimic Yahan with that like guttural Afrikaans and I just end up sounding ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
not Groot boss, but it's also not Groot boss. It's not how I say it either.
No.
Groot
Okay.
boss.
So I did have two questions we'll run through. The first one was, what was it like wearing a mask in and out of Johannesburg when you were flying? Like, how was that for you?
Okay, so I think my love of travel and my need to be in Africa is so much deeper than any discomfort that I will ever feel in traveling. I will say that first. If someone says to me, I don't want to travel because I don't want to wear a mask, I'm like, okay, I don't see that myself. Instead, I looked at ways to make it more comfortable. So for me, I did wear surgical masks on the plane. And for me, my favorite kind of healing scent is lavender. So I took lavender oil and I put it on the inside of my mask so that when I was breathing a very calm, soothing, relaxing essential oil. And that made me feel very much at peace. For my husband, when he traveled, he did not like the way that the mask felt on his ears. And so he just took like a piece of string or like something from one of the amenities in the plane, and he tied it behind his head so that the elastic was not resting right on his ears, but was tied behind his head. And I have since gotten some masks that do have adjustable straps. Actually, both the Tswalu and the Ellerman masks are those masks that are more adjustable. So you can make it a little bit more loose. Whether you're going to those properties or, you know, you're flying across the Atlantic to begin with, if you can find a mask that has something adjustable, that makes it nice because you can have it fit to yourself. I also personally like the ones with nose guards because there have been times when I would just put the nose guard kind of tightly and take the straps off. I mean, I think everyone's going to make it work their own way. I'll be very honest. My skin is drier than it's been. You know, it just, does my skin like having a mask on all the time? No, it doesn't. But do I get there and then I just exfoliate and I put on some nice oil and some lotion and kind of get on with it? Yeah.
It's worth it.
I mean, for me, it's worth it. I have to wear a mask when I go to Whole Foods. I have to wear a mask when I go to Pharmaca. I have to wear a mask when I go to the post office. So it's just a longer process, but the reward on the other side for me, and then not having to wear a mask on safari, it's worth it. It's worth it for me.
That's great. And then the other question we got was, what is the best time to travel to South Africa? So I'll jump on that question. There's never a bad time to go to Africa.
No.
Right? Well, now when you are getting all of these private experiences and you're not around, you know, a ton of people aren't there. But if we were to say, okay, what's peak season, right? That would be considered their winter, which is our summer. So you're looking June to September, October-ish, depending on what part of Africa you end up being in. That's considered peak season because it's their winter. So therefore it's cooler. The bush is generally dry. The animals tend to congregate around the watering holes. So that would be peak season. However, you know, February is when the babies are being born and the flowers are in bloom and it's green and it's lush and it's beautiful and the pricing is great. It's a little bit warmer, but it's still a fantastic time to go. So there really isn't a bad time to go. We, you know, generally tend to stay away from the rainier times, March, April-ish, depending on what part of the country you're in. But it's a continent, I should say, because it is a huge continent. And therefore it really just just depends. You tell me when you want to go, and I'll tell you where the best place to be is. And that's really the trick, because certain places are going to be better at certain times of the year, but there's never a bad time to be there. So,
And if I can add on to that, Liz,
of course.
I also think that we just need to be aware that it just is what it is, that our climate is changing. And when I say that, historically, there have always been rainy seasons. To Liz's point, we avoid the rainy season. Well, I've been in East Africa, in Kenya, the past 3 or 4 years running in April and May, which is rainy season. It's when everybody avoids going to East Africa. And I've had some afternoon showers. But you know what? February was when they had unprecedented rains and floods. So I agree with Liz. You tell her what works for your family or your budget or when you want to get away, and she'll tell you the best place to go. And also, I would like for us to really stop planning our trips specifically around weather. And I'm not just talking about Africa. It is harder than ever to go and see cherry blossoms in Japan, crush in Napa, tulips in Amsterdam. Like, it's just changing. And if we only focus on weather and you know, that seasonality, I think we're actually going to miss a lot. The other thing to keep in mind is that what Liz is speaking about in terms of the best time to be in South Africa, I do agree with, that's peak season, but it's also winter. You're not going to the beach, you're not going in the water, you're not wearing a sundress. You know, like, I mean, it's winter in Cape Town and even at Grootbos. That's why half of the things that I did on this trip, I've never done before, because I've never been able to be at these properties in December. And if I look at something like Tswalu, I've been to Tswalu 2 years running in November and December, and those were the times that I saw pangolin, even though the best time to see pangolin is between May and October. So, you know, I think we live in an upside down world right now where I just don't want people to say, I can't travel this month because historically it was this. The way that I don't want people to only focus on the big five, I don't want them to say, I'm not going in green season, because there is a beauty. I love that you said the flowers are in bloom. I mean, like, there's a beauty to being there year round. As long as the properties are open and the vehicles can drive, never a bad time to be there.
Agreed. Got one more question that just came through. I saw on the Facebook page. Do the animals intimidate those taking advantage of the sleep outs during the night hours? It's a great question.
Never lost a guest yet.
Right.
That's always my answer.
And the sleep outs are generally elevated. They're on a platform. You are away from the animal. Well, you're not like away from them, but they're not getting to where you are. Another wonderful thing is you've got a guide who is pitched a tent just far enough away that you've got privacy, but just close enough to rescue you if you get uncomfortable. And your room is always, or typically always, available to you should you decide in the middle of the night you just aren't feeling it. I personally did a sleep out in Zimbabwe by myself, and the baboons woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning to some wonderful noises. But it is one heck of an experience, and it's more of I don't know, just being out there in the sounds and sleeping under the stars and that sort of thing. The animals leave you alone; they're not worried about you.
Well, and they're also not interested in you. So there is definitely, and I understand the fear. I do. I totally understand it. The thing is, we do not look like, smell like, or taste like food to them. The animals, wild animals, are conditioned to go after their prey. So if you're going to sleep with a kudu steak in your bed, we're going to have a whole other conversation. But like, that's also when, you know, an animal might be more interested in you, because they're like, kudu, springbok, and yalla, like, you know, that smells like food to them. At the end of the day, wild animals are more afraid of us than we are of them, and they want nothing to do with us. That's why habituation programs take place. Like, you know, for us to be able to habituate meerkats at Tswalu so that you can actually get close enough on foot to take really wonderful photographs of them, that's an incredible thing. There is a vast difference between a habituated experience where we do not attempt to have you touch or interact with the species, but you can get close to them, and a hands-on, I'm going to walk with or bottle feed or any, kind of ride, an animal experience. And I I'm totally going kind of blind here because I have not talked to Liz about this, but I will pretty much believe that Liz and Alluring Africa don't book those experiences because they're not
100%.
appropriate. Okay.
100%. It's not
They're
natural.
not appropriate.
Yeah.
Those are the things that make animals more susceptible to humans. So when you see things that feel like an animal maybe going after a human, that's because they have been handled by humans incorrectly. So we don't promote them. They don't sell them. We're not going to talk about those. When
Moving
you're
right
out
along.
in the wild, I mean, I've done the Mallory like you. I've slept out in a riverbed and in tents and all of that. The animals are more afraid of us. They're just like, I don't know what this thing is, so I'm exiting stage left.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. All right. Well, that was it on the question front. And I think we might be wrapping up, right? This is it. This is time to go home. What a journey though.
It's an amazing journey. I cannot stress it enough. I think that being in Africa right now is the place to be, especially as so much of the world is closed down to us. They're doing everything right because at the end of the day, they have to. They need tourism. They don't want to take a step in the wrong direction any more than we want to travel and not be well. And I also said it earlier, I really, truly actually believe that these countries are doing it far better than we are at home. I really think that none of us understand how much we need these trips until we get there. So if you do have it in your power to book as soon as possible and to go now, do it. Also, because later this year and early next year, availability is very, very limited because so many things got postponed. So get in touch with Liz, tell her what you and your family or your friends or your spouse or your, spouse to be, like whatever it is that you want to do in Africa, in life, you can accomplish it and she can help you make that happen. And I promise you, it will just be the most extraordinary experience to be there now.
Absolutely agreed. So we're so grateful that you were able to join us and share a little slice of South African heaven with us. Brooke, thank you so much for being a part of this and sharing your journey with us, and giving us all the tips and the tricks. And we are excited to help other guests get to these amazing places. If you have any questions at all that we haven't covered, or you just want to sit and talk travel, we're totally down to do that. So feel free to give us a ring. Here's our contact details and phone number. And we would love to help you get a chance to experience Africa through your own eyes and create your own emotions and experiences around it. Keep an eye out for an email. We will follow up to this with some specials that Brooke alluded to. These are some fantastic partners of ours who have given us some pretty exclusive specials. So I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to share it with everybody. And again, thanks for sharing your Thursday night with us. It was really a pleasure to be here with you. And Brooke, thank you.
A pleasure, Liz. Thank you and the entire Alluring Africa team. I really appreciate you inviting me, and to everyone for your time today. Thank you. And yeah, get to Africa.
Awesome. All right. Well, on that note, cheers to you. Have a wonderful evening. And we look forward to sharing another journey with you again soon. Take care. Oh, so much love coming in. I love it.